Is there a creative activity that smooths your frayed edges, settles your raging inner beast, scrapes the barnacles off your buoy, in non-metaphor speak, a stress buster? For me, for now, it's collaging. There's something very satisfying about assembling little bits of paper to make an attractive picture. Many years ago, it was jigsaw puzzles. But collage, unlike jigsaw puzzles, doesn't only come together in one way, because there is no perfect end goal. You have control, and you decide how it ends up. That may sound like a lot of pressure, but this is how I think of it. Regardless of who ends up seeing the result, you're only trying to please yourself, right? So hang around and watch as I indulge myself in this creative, low-stress activity. Speaking of lowering stress, I've recently discovered the YouTube channel Moonlight Cottage ASMR. Now, I've enjoyed ASMR content in the past, but I had no idea this specialized niche of personal attention roleplay ASMR existed. Yeah, it's a thing, and it's glorious. At least the way Dion does it. Admittedly, I haven't explored a whole lot beyond her channel because she does it so well. She includes the usual sensory delights, but combined with sets, costumes, props, and a script to make a total, almost cinematic package. The fact that she's an attractive young woman with a French accent helps too. To see what I mean, just check out her latest upload titled The Hair Parlor. But also look back through her previous content to find the steampunk optometrist and the Harry Potter-esque wand shop. Yeah, I like this stuff. And apparently so do a lot of people, since she has more than 500,000 subscribers. I initially found Moonlight Cottage ASMR through the steampunk angle, but various time periods, both historical and fictional, have been covered, such as the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, and the Regency. Regarding time periods, I don't usually try to nail a specific decade in these spreads. I'll often gravitate toward late Victorian, but I'm happy to mix things up. For example, later on in this video, I'll add a mid-century element in the form of a couple of Parker fountain pens from a magazine ad. It was included in the stash of goodies sent to me from Sarah Bailey of the YouTube channel Sarah Bailey Arts. And I think it ends up adding so much to this spread. A lot of this stuff was chosen for its vintage look, yes, but also I was going for a calming brown and green color scheme. I also included a number of pieces that are in some way related to either writing or correspondence. After the initial "this is what I can use" selection process, once I'm actually putting things together on the page, I go through the "this is what I will use" selection process. Because until I start assembling the pieces, I don't know what's going to work. So I often end up using only half of what I'd selected to begin with. You might be wondering, but Irene, where did you even get all this stuff from? Well, multiple sources, really, including, but not limited to, antique malls, AliExpress, and friends and family trying to offload their crap. I mean, ephemera. Yeah, ephemera. That's the fancy word for things you'd normally throw out, or reproductions of such. Much of my collection consists of reproduced items I've purchased, usually in small packages of themed materials. I spent a lot of years in the craft and gift retail industry, so little cellophane baggies filled with assorted stickers, while possibly baffling to some people, are familiar territory to me. And while I've blocked some of the more traumatic work memories, I'm glad to have that knowledge base to draw from. This theme was inspired by my participation in IncoRimo last February. So there are writing instruments, ink bottles, and postal markings. Although I don't own a typewriter, I like that imagery. It's painful to admit now, but I had to take a typewriting class in high school. That's right, I am that old. Actually, it was called keyboarding, since the classroom had just introduced a handful of early PCs. I got to use one of them once, so it was probably like 90% typewriting. It was at least 10 years later when I got my own home PC. Wow, that takes me back. Now I'm reminded of the computer scene from the Taika Waititi movie Eagle vs. Shark, which is both hilarious and painful. How could it not be? It involves both dial-up internet and pop-up windows. Comment if you remember any of that. This project took about 3 hours to complete, but that includes the first 90 minutes where I went through my stash of stuff, selecting items I thought I could use. That was a whole process in itself, and ultimately, I decided to not include any of that footage. It might have worked as a standalone relaxation video without any talking, because I was basically just going through stickers and papers very slowly. Because that's how I do things these days, very slowly. But there are plenty of people out there that do that sort of thing better than I could. Concerning relaxation, I don't know if it was coined in the 1980s, but that's when I became aware of the phrase stressed out. Is it possible to have a stress-free life? Of course not, and I wouldn't even aim for such a thing. Some stress can be a good thing. It can keep you on your toes, your hands clutching your cell phone, and your eyes searching for a quick escape. But once dinner with the family is over, you'll want to unwind. And that's where hobbies come in. Because it's a fact that doing something you enjoy lowers your blood pressure and creates positive feelings. It's all about the endorphins. Or is it dopamine? It's one or the other. I had a little ink swatch I was hoping to use, but not enough space. The idea of doing a large format collage has occurred to me, but I actually like the challenge of this size. There are multiple books I'm working in for collage, including the Antiquarian Sticker Book, a smaller scrapbooking album from Daiso, and an even smaller mini composition book. This one here is a Strathmore mixed media visual journal. All of them have been fun, but each has its own limitations. In the case of this Strathmore journal, it's the wire binding. You aren't able to get a single uninterrupted spread with that running down the center, if that's what you're trying for, I mean. In many ways, this book makes a fine choice for journaling, collaging, and general arting. Yes, you can even watercolor on it, but I don't recommend that. Yeah, it's designated as mixed media, but I've yet to find one of those that holds up well under watercolor. Here's a question. Is collage craft or is it art? Sure, I have opinions about what constitutes art and what constitutes craft. In many cases, I don't know until I see it. Even then, I could probably be swayed to the other side by a reasonable argument and a caramel frappuccino. But I also think there's a good amount of overlap, where something can be both art and craft simultaneously. That's how I think of collage. Of course, both art and craft can be serious business, but when you approach something like collage from a hobbyist's angle, you get the best of all worlds. Because on one hand, you can use it for any purpose you like. For example, as a relaxation method or motor skill therapy. On the other hand, you get to call it art. Because you can. That sounds overly flippant, doesn't it? Look, I'm just putting some thoughts out there. Are they all going to be little gems of wisdom? Of course not. I've got a half-hour video to fill, and I ran out of good stuff after the first 4 minutes. Earlier this evening, producer Mike and I went out for fast food dinner. He must have heard the clamor and expletives coming from the kitchen as I cleaned, because afterwards, I'd never heard such a quick offer to eat out. I think it was just what I needed, especially the part where we nommed on French fries during the drive back. So yum. Maybe French fries are a de-stressor. I mean, I had planned to get into all of the things that irritate me about fast food joints, but I'm feeling pretty chill at the moment, and I don't want to harsh that buzz. In previous videos, I may have mentioned some of my ideas for future spreads. One for my favorite movie, Amelie, a mushroom-filled one, and one with a Gilbert and Sullivan theme. But I've been holding off because, one, I don't have enough materials for Amelie. Two, I've already done a mushroom spread. And three, nothing clears a room quicker than Gilbert and Sullivan. I know this because when I was first exploring the world of G&S, I checked out some books and CDs from the public library, only to have the librarian demonstrate with his booming baritone. So I hightailed it. You won't catch me as an accessory to flagrant violations of library policy, and no way was I time committing to a 12-stanza patter song without at least piano accompaniment. This was before that casual interest evolved into hardcore obsession. Otherwise, Mr. Librarian and I could have bonded with a nerd high five. That might not be a thing, but if it were, I imagine the cringe level would be off the charts. So at one time, I did have a small collection of theater programs and ticket stubs that would have come in handy now. But over the years, things get lost or left behind, and the only collageable G&S stuff around is a volume of librettos and a hardbound coffee table book with pictures and history. I'm talking about this now because cutting up those rare items for a 2-page spread is not going to happen, no matter how tempting it may be. Since we're apparently sharing everything here, let me tell you about the dream I had. It started off great because I was with a group of survivors running from zombies. The best dreams are zombie dreams because I never run out of ammo, and there's always someone slower than me. But this time it changed to the lost in a shopping mall scenario. It's late. Every store is closing, but I'm still trying to hang out. Then I'm outside in the parking lot, not finding my car. So it's off to the transit center, just in time to board the last bus leaving. Walking toward the back, I see piles of random shoes beneath the seats. Since my own shoes have disappeared, I rummage through them, but they're all singles, not a pair to be found. The person sitting across from me then wants to know what's inside my bag. I'm surprised to see a shopping bag in my hands, but when I look inside, it's full of someone else's dirty clothes. Because it's no longer a shopping bag, it's a plastic laundry hamper instead. While I'm trying to figure out why I'm carrying around mystery laundry at this time of night, I realize the driver has passed my house. Just before trying to bust out an emergency window, I remember I don't live there anymore, which has me wondering, wait a minute, where do I live? Then I woke up. Anyway, I could have used some collage therapy after that, I tell you. The other night, I found the new film version of Death on the Nile. It's one of my favorite Agatha Christie stories. The film version I remember best is the one from 2004, possibly because it was the first time I'd seen Emily Blunt on screen. But it could also be due to Frances Delator as Salome Otterborn. At times, the story does stretch believability, especially the part where, just as someone is about to reveal the identity of the killer, they're shot dead by an unknown assailant lurking in the shadows. The book's been around for about 90 years, so plenty of people are familiar with it. The new version switched some things up, so it kept my attention, and I like what they did with Poirot's character, adding touches that fleshed him out. There were times when things felt anachronistic, though, and that didn't work for me. I mean, people were dirty dancing in a 1930s jazz club. I don't think they did that back then. But I wasn't there, so what do I know? Yeah, it was entertaining, and I'll likely watch it again. Or perhaps I'll search out the 1970s version with Angela Lansbury as Salome, which I've never seen outside of a short clip here or there. You might be thinking, oh sure, it's easy when things are peel and stick. Well, yeah, it is. But I used a lot of the adhesive roller too. The one I used for this spread is 3M's Scotch brand. And boy, it works so much better than the online special I was using previously. It's an example of when paying a little more is well worth it. The only downside is there's a little hinged plastic cover. I get it. It's meant to protect the exposed roller. But when it's open, it hangs down and gets in the way. Next time, I'll just remove it and snap it back on when I'm done. Sure would have been nice to have had that brilliant idea at the time. While I have cursory knowledge of numerous crafting categories and paraphernalia, in most cases I never really deep dived into them. I can't crochet or knit. Both candle and soap making scare me. And I'm completely lost in the leather working aisle. So I art, because in art, the only standards I have to meet are my own. And most of the time, I'm pretty darned easy to please. Just a handwritten note to tuck inside the envelope, using a Lamy Safari fountain pen. Too bad I've forgotten which ink I used. Am I going to have to apply pieces of tape to the pen barrels so I know which ink is inside? Man, I hope not. Yeah, InkoWrimo was cool, and it was a blast to receive letters from viewers. But I feel bad that there are still a couple of people waiting for one from me. I haven't forgotten you. This sheet of letter paper came with the envelope as part of a boxed calligraphy pen set. The set that I showed in a haul video only to privately try out later, have a big fail, then quickly shove it into a drawer and hope you all forgot about it. Oh, wait. Oops. Forget I said that. See, this is what happens when I prattle on. I share way too much. The envelope with stickers on both sides and a letter inside was too bulky for mere washi tape, so I reinforced it with clear cello tape. I added several more handwriting touches to complete the spread. It wasn't an afterthought. I actually planned that. Things don't just fall together by themselves, you know. Unless it's a salad. Because no matter how carefully it's been arranged, I'm just going to toss it with a bunch of craisins and a buttload of dressing. Oh, man. I'm blurting out all the secrets. Thank goodness it's getting close to wrap-up time. By the way, is the correct term buttload or boatload? I'm always scratching my head over that one. Going back to adhesives. Thank goodness for dot rollers, right? Imagine if you had to stick your stuff together using the same Elmer's glue and Tasty paste from way back in kindergarten. What a mess that would be. So if there's any advice I would give a newcomer to collage, it would be get yourself some adhesive dot rollers. I bought the 4-pack last year for $18. That means they were $4.50 per roller. It's currently listed on Amazon for $27, which makes it $6.75 per roller. That's overpriced in my opinion. Yeah, these things shouldn't be more than $5. This Scotch brand is good, but there might be better, especially if you don't mind investing a bit of money in your adhesives. I'm happy to share this creative collage session with you. Yeah, I know a thing or two about things. In other words, I've been around the block, which makes it sound like I'm a bag of garbage that was tossed to the curb and picked up by the sanitation truck. Yeah, I won't be using that phrase again. Until next time, don't stress out, or only stress out a little, or have a full-on major stress event, then pull out the stickers afterward. And stay artsy, my friends.